The lights of Kyiv flicker faintly as another day begins under the long shadow of war. Across the city, the rumble of generators has become as common as the sound of traffic. Yet, at the Ministry of Energy, a very different kind of storm is unfolding. One not caused by Russian missiles, but by Ukraine's own determination to purge corruption from its most vital sector. The room is filled with cameras and murmuring reporters. A quiet tension lingers as Energy Minister Svitlana Hrynchuk steps to the podium. Calm but firm, she represents a generation of Ukrainian officials who came of age during war and reform, a generation now tasked with rebuilding trust. She begins by confirming what many in Kyiv had only whispered about. The National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, or NABU, has carried out 70 coordinated raids in a sweeping investigation into the country's energy institutions. The operation, conducted over 15 months in cooperation with the Specialised Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, is one of the largest of its kind since the Russian invasion. The journalists lean in. The energy sector, after all, is not just a bureaucratic branch of government. It's the lifeblood of Ukraine's survival. It powers the hospitals, the heating grids, the water systems. Since Moscow's first missile struck in February 2022, it has been a target of relentless bombardment and, in peacetime and wartime alike, a frequent victim of internal graft. Hrynchuk's tone is measured but resolute. Those identified and found guilty will, of course, be subject to a zero-tolerance policy for corruption. Everyone must be held accountable. The words echo through the hall. They are not just a legal statement, they are a declaration of political intent. For months, Western partners have pressed Kyiv to demonstrate tangible anti-corruption results as a condition for continued aid. The raids, insiders suggest, are not just about rooting out wrongdoing, they are about proving Ukraine's maturity as a modern state under siege. Behind the minister, screens display figures and maps, key facilities under investigation, networks of state companies and lists of procurement contracts. The most prominent name among them, Energoatom, the state nuclear power producer that provides more than half of Ukraine's total electricity generation. Hrynchuk acknowledges the elephant in the room. The investigations at Energoatom are being conducted by the National Anti-Corruption Office in collaboration with the Prosecutor's Office, specialising in combating corruption. From what you know and from what I know from the statements of Energoatom, the company fully cooperates with all investigations, provides all necessary documents requested of it, and offers no resistance or concealment. The statement is deliberate, meant to reassure both domestic audiences and international investors that the process is not a witch hunt. In Kyiv's political circles, Energoatom has long been a symbol of both pride and vulnerability. It kept the grid alive during blackouts, but was also at times marred by opaque contracts and politicised appointments. As Hrynchuk continues, she moves from the institutional to the personal. Energoatom, as a key company that supplies more than 50% of the production needed for the energy system, is under intense scrutiny. And of course, as Minister of Energy, it is very important to me that the investigation be conducted transparently and openly. And all those identified and found guilty will, of course, be subject to a zero-tolerance policy for corruption. Everyone must be held accountable. Her repetition of those final words, everyone must be held accountable, becomes the emotional anchor of the press conference. In the audience, a few journalists exchange knowing looks. The phrase zero tolerance has been heard before in Ukrainian politics, often as rhetoric, rarely as practice. But Hrynchuk's approach feels different, factual, procedural, and forward-looking. The Energy Minister, only 39, represents a younger cohort of technocrats shaped by 2 wars and countless reforms. Her professional background, managing infrastructure reconstruction under fire, has earned her credibility among European partners. And in this press conference, she uses that credibility to remind her audience that accountability and resilience must go hand in hand. Moments later, she pivots from the raids to the broader mission of her ministry. My main task, my main response to everything is to continue to prepare for the difficult winter that awaits us. I do not want to respond to the speculations that are published or the statements that are made. I am doing my job. My job is to coordinate all the energy companies to ensure that repairs are made, that we are ready for the winter and that we get through it. The tone shifts from defensive to pragmatic. Kyiv knows that this winter, like the one before, will test its limits. Dozens of power plants remain damaged. Engineers work around the clock, often in the dark, patching cables and replacing transformers destroyed by drone and missile strikes. For them, corruption is not just a moral issue, it's a logistical threat that can decide whether millions freeze or stay warm. Hrynchuk continues, outlining a plan that includes deep coordination among energy enterprises, repair brigades, and regional authorities. She speaks not in political slogans, but in the language of operations and contingencies, about spare parts, protective shelters for substations, and the distribution of imported generators. In that sense, her remarks become not merely an anti-corruption announcement, but a national briefing, an effort to restore public faith that Ukraine can sustain both its energy system and its integrity. She then turns to the role of Ukraine's foreign allies. We are constantly working with international partners who provide us with invaluable assistance in the implementation of all our projects, both in terms of protection and additional equipment. And I am convinced that our international partners do it not primarily for energy companies or for the Ukrainian government, but for Ukrainians, for Ukrainian society. Those lines strike a chord. It is an acknowledgement of the billions in Western aid funneled through Ukraine's energy programs, from American air defense systems protecting power grids to European funds financing transformer production. But Hrynchuk's framing that this support is for society, not the state, is carefully chosen. It's a reminder that reform is not just a bureaucratic requirement, but a social contract with citizens who have endured nearly 4 years of war. Outside the ministry, the city hums with cautious normalcy. Streetlights flicker on, powered by the same system now under scrutiny. In the control rooms of Energoatom, engineers monitor reactor temperatures and grid stability. The irony is not lost on anyone. While corruption investigators raid offices, others in the same company work around the clock to keep the nation's lights on. Back in the conference hall, the minister takes her final question about political pressure. Some opposition lawmakers have accused the government of targeting specific officials to score political points before budget negotiations. Hrynchuk's response is restrained but clear. She reminds the room that transparency is not negotiable, that Ukraine cannot ask for international investment while tolerating misconduct at home, and she insists that her ministry will provide full access to NABU investigators without exception. The press conference concludes. Cameras flash as she rises from her chair. A slow tracking shot follows her out of the room, calm, determined, unflinching. Outside, a reporter narrates for television. The raids mark one of the largest anti-corruption operations in Ukraine's energy sector since independence. With war still raging and reconstruction funds flowing, the stakes could not be higher. The footage cuts to visuals of investigators in dark jackets labelled NABU, moving through office corridors with sealed evidence boxes. Documents are bagged, computers unplugged, and drives labelled for forensic analysis. In one clip, a blurred-out suspect is escorted by agents into an armoured van. For viewers across Ukraine, the images carry mixed emotions, pride in reform, but also fatigue from years of promises. Yet amid the uncertainty, one constant remains. The battle for integrity is inseparable from the battle for sovereignty. The voiceover resumes, summarizing the day's message. Ukraine's energy system, once a symbol of vulnerability, is becoming a front line of accountability. Each investigation, each reform is part of a broader fight, not just against corruption, but against the erosion of public trust. And in that fight, Hrynchuk's statement lingers like a refrain. Everyone must be held accountable. In the coming months, the results of NABU's raids will be tested in courtrooms. Files will be reviewed, indictments announced, and some may fall under political fire. But the deeper test, the moral one, lies in whether the system can sustain this momentum when international attention fades. As Ukraine braces for another winter of war, the lights of Kyiv, however fragile, symbolize something larger. They are powered not only by turbines and reactors, but by a determination to prove that transparency can endure even under siege. For now, the Ministry of Energy's message is clear and resolute. Zero tolerance means no exceptions, not in peacetime, not in war. And as Minister Svitlana Hrynchuk leaves the podium, her quiet resolve speaks louder than the words themselves.